Hi, everyone.
Yeah, hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks for joining us, our panel today. Really excited to have this. I think for some context, we're all developers, and most of you are developers too. And as you know, we developers, we like building stuff, right? But one of the challenges is transforming those projects to a sustainable business. And the three of us here are in the process of doing that. Some of us have done that already. So I want to share some tips and ideas on how we went about raising funding, and hopefully it can inspire some of you also. So maybe let's start with Yaz. So what was the process of going from an idea to a business for you?
I would like to describe it as a meandering path, and I should clarify I'm not a developer, actually. I'm interested in blockchain deeply, but actually I'm not a developer. But we started, I think, with just the conversation over coffee between Abby and I about what blockchain could be used for, rather than just financial payments, which was very common at the time. Back in 2018-19, we were talking about it. And my background is in education. I knew degrees were being issued and on pieces of paper that were being printed off around the world, etc. And I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if blockchain could remove fraud from degrees, just in its very simplest case? And from there, we started talking to some other friends and family that we had and started just bouncing the idea off them, sense checking it. And one in particular was really interested in it, who was a Fidelity fund manager for a number of years, and said, why don't you just speak to some people about it and see if it actually would be useful? And so we started validating with different users, and it led us to go, I think there may be some legs in this one. So we then started building prototypes to validate more closely with those users, and that then grew into VerifyEd more formally.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, Yaz. So you were inspired by talking to people, and also you initially got the funding from friends that you spoke with. Amazing. How about you, Koen? So with the SRPL, building with SRPL, how did you initially fund your project before securing grants?
Yeah, initially with token sales. First you got to have a proof of concept, of course. You have to have something to present. And token sales can be a way, but you don't overpromise. You got to deliver what you say you're going to do. But sometimes speculation is actually more powerful. When we didn't have a live platform yet, there were token sales, and when we launched, there weren't. So they thought it was going to be something in their mind. But we're here for the utility, for the long term, of course. So the price isn't really that important. But token sales can be an initial start to get you going. Hire some developers and just advance.
That's amazing. So that was before you went on to get the SHOCKWAVE grants.
Yes, we were Wave 2 recipient, you too, I think.
Yeah, so Wave 2.
All the best companies in Wave 2, yeah.
So we're all like past SHOCKWAVE grants grantees. We're going to talk about that in a bit, about the SHOCKWAVE grants and how potentially some of you in the audience can also explore that opportunity. So Yaz, for VerifyEd, you're also one of the 8 startups in the XRPL Accelerator program alongside Chimoney. So I'm curious, what specific challenges did you face while transitioning from your initial idea to getting funded, and how did you overcome those challenges?
So I guess referring back to the meandering path, we started by validating. We got confirmation from one organization that they would pay for it if we built it. Looking back in hindsight, it's probably not the thing to do. I would suggest speaking more widely with more people, making sure product market fit is there before you start building. I think we have made many errors on our 4-year journey to here. But once we had a validation of someone wanting to use the platform, we then managed to raise a friends and family round, which got us started, built the MVP, had it being issued by 3 organizations before we then raised a pre-seed of 350. And then we got the grant after that. So we've been building on the XRPL before all the grants were initiated, inspired largely by David Schwartz, who we saw this morning, and Wietsvind, who got the XRP tip bot, which I just thought was incredible innovation, and you saw by the way it spread. But that then gave us the confidence to think, okay, the accelerator is a great opportunity, having done a grant and looked at where we could see wider growth, to then be amongst some amazing other startups, the mentoring and support that was around it, as well as the $50,000 grant that really facilitated us spending a lot of time focusing and refining what we were doing. And I think it's really helped us get our product market fit messaging and go to market stronger as well. So it's been a phenomenal experience from our experience.
That's amazing. So one thing I noticed is that before you got the grant, we were already building something on the SRPL. So that potentially could be something we could all explore. Showing like some use case and actually starting the build phase before applying for the grant would be helpful in securing those grants. So for you, Koen, SHOCKWAVE is a platform that connects and empowers people to make content on, and you use the SRPL today. So I'm curious, what's your approach of marrying content with blockchain, and how did you ensure that while you were building a robust platform, you also focused on generating revenue and also getting funding?
Yeah, crypto and content are a great match because it's basically a digital file, a song, a video, it's all a file. So it's extremely suitable for blockchain, and also remove some of the gatekeepers. Like, for example, a song, you have to get a record deal or something. And with this, you get all the benefits, like the quick transactions, low fees. You get paid if you would sell a song or a download. 5 seconds later, you have your money. And like Spotify or YouTube is maybe quarterly or yearly. So it can remove some of the barriers to entry. And also with smart contracts in the future, like you and I, we want to start a band. And then we make a smart contract where you get your percentage when we sell a song, I get mine. And every time we sell a song, immediately everybody has their money. Or you would want to sell like 10% of your ownership in a song. You could do that, things like that. Yeah, it's the tokenization. Yeah, it's extremely suitable for this to be married with blockchain.
Amazing. So you looked at what was common between content and blockchain, and then used that to create a business model that helped you build a sustainable business. Yeah,
we have to think about revenue as quickly as possible. I thought about it too loosely, because I thought we have time, we have a grant now, but you have monthly costs. So you really have to think about it. And I wanted to make everything beautiful and perfect, and I wanted to do social media and aspect and chat and this and this and this and this. So you can't think like that. You got to choose one thing that's going to lead to revenue, and when you have the revenue, then you're going to do your CSS and make it beautiful and all that. So if I could go back, I would do things differently. So maybe somebody can learn from it. Awesome. You have to think, how am I going to get to revenue? And not how am I going to make a beautiful app. That's too idealistic. It's the real world. You have monthly costs.
That's amazing. And it's true, right? So when we look at revenue and developers, we focus a lot on the technical aspect, while potentially we ignore the business side of things. So, and this is for both of you, Yaz and Koen. How did you go about ensuring that while you were building something very technical, you also had a clear path to funding and revenue generation?
I think from the very beginning, we had a cost that every institution that wanted to issue a blockchain-backed credential on our platform would have to pay. So we, from the very first conversation we had with that first validating partner, they had a set number of credentials they knew they wanted to issue, that they knew wanted to protect their brand by issuing on our platform, and that they wanted potentially the skills of those learners to be surfaced in a better way. So they had a very clear purpose that they wanted to move from paper to digital to protect their brand and to be able to easily audit what they'd developed and trained across a membership body. And that led us to say, well, that will be the first level of revenue. But the revenue generation that we see in the future is much more diversified, from career coaching for individuals to giving skill insights across an organization, and then being able to generate more verified skills and achievements for learners and employees across those companies and institutions.
That's awesome. So thinking about revenue from the get-go and also having a plan for more revenue opportunities in the future. That's amazing. How about you, Koen?
Yeah, as I said, you can't be too idealistic, like everything got to be perfect and beautiful. Just do one thing and do that one thing well. Like I compare it to a shotgun, which has many small impacts, or a laser beam with one high impact. And with this, it's better to do one high impact, which leads to other revenues. And then from that, you can grow. Like, don't make it too perfect. Just get a product and solve a problem. Like, make sure that you're solving a real problem that people have, or you make life easier, or you're connecting parties to each other, like Airbnb or Uber or something. Uber doesn't have cars. Airbnb doesn't own houses, but they're connecting people, and that's where you can bring value. And when you bring value, people want to pay you.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yes,
I think your laser analogy is really a good one, and it just reminds me of the Good to Great book by Jim Collins and the hedgehog concept, and that idea of saying, what can I be, what am I passionate about, what's an economic driver, but what can I be best in the world at that can really drive that economic engine? And I think that's, a really nice way to put it. Thanks.
Amazing. So let's switch gears a bit and talk about grants. There are lots of grant opportunities in the Web3 space, including the SHOCKWAVE Grants program. And but many developers don't take advantage of the grant opportunities. So from your experience, what advice would you give developers to make the most of the grant opportunities out there? And are there any grants you recommend that developers here can start looking at?
Well, the XRP grant program is really unique. It's not a loan. They don't take equity. It's just a grant. Here. They do follow up, like what have you done? Have you reached your milestones? All that, and that's perfect. But it's really a unique opportunity, so you got to keep trying. With us, we had 4 rejections, 2 before and 2 after we got the grant. So it doesn't matter how many times. You only got to get it once, and then you can grow, you can get more people. So never give up. That's basically my message. And just keep watching the Twitter, Discord, keep talking to people, and maybe you see a tweet or something about a program you never heard of. Like 2 days ago, I never heard of the accelerator program that you did. So you've got to connect with people and just be busy with it all day. Amazing. Then you see the opportunities.
Awesome. Yes?
I think there are a variety of grants in multiple jurisdictions and geographies, and particularly in the blockchain space, lots of different chains have got their own incubators. I know Binance, Cardano, lots of them have foundations and have grant programs that people can be applying for. In fact, I know of a few projects that have got multiple grants from multiple grant programs or foundations. For me, it was, what does the grant facilitate? And if it's a grant that is money and equity free, then that's really attractive, obviously, for many founders and developers and people who are building projects. But I think we were really keen at what it opened up in addition to that. And it was the mentoring, it was the ability to engage with others in the community that were very passionate, knowledgeable, that were going to help accelerate us and hopefully remove some risk in terms of sharing what we should not be doing, in terms of helping us be a bit smarter. So I think for us, we were really attracted to the XRPL grant that we got, and Wave 2 again, same as you. The accelerator was a grant of a different sort, but we also tried an Innovate UK grant, and that was, I mean, I don't know if anyone's gone for a big national level innovation grant, but they're basically a book like that in terms of documentation you have to work through. It's a full-time job for 3 months. You stand very small chance of getting it, and so it has to be amazingly high standard, which means that we actually employed or worked with someone who was quite successful at achieving them and still was unsuccessful. And so I think there's a balance to weigh up for developers in terms of how much time you end up applying for grants that will help you accelerate versus accelerating on maybe a smaller bootstrap level to show that traction, which becomes its own accelerant in the future. I think that was we haven't applied for another Innovate UK grant since, but that was our experience at that time, and we did come close. So
yeah, I tried the EU grant as well, and then they send you 400 pages.
Wow, 400.
And then it's like you got to put people on it, full-timers. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's totally different as is.
So it's a balancing act, balancing between spending lots of time applying for those grants versus the time you take to actually build stuff that generates revenue.
But you had experience as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so for us, we have the SRPL grant. In addition to that, we also have grants from 4 other crypto projects. This is an SRPL accelerator, so not going to mention the accelerator. Yeah, so
That's the tech business.
Yeah,
First
so-
you got to put money in, and then you get the revenue.
yeah. So we got several grants from like other crypto projects to integrate their chains. And in addition to that, yeah, as you mentioned, government-funded program. So across the world, there are like several government grants where a Canadian entity, so we're able to get like tax benefits and grants. And that's something that like developers can as well explore, because most of the work we do as developers can be considered R&D, research and development, right? So you could get funded or some rebate by leveraging some of those opportunities. So let's move on to the business model behind the code, right? So as developers, we like building stuff. I could spend like an entire weekend just working on something, but there should be a business model to everything that we're doing. So I'm curious why technology is crucial. Business modeling is key. We can all agree on that. Can you share some tips on how you approached business modeling for your projects, and what strategies did you employ on the business side so you could build a business that was sustainable?
I think we had the added benefit that we'd already received money as a business. And so once you've received money and there are other people on the cap table, then suddenly it's not just here's some money that we're spending, it's actually being responsible for what that money is doing and how it can spread. So I think we'd been business modeling for a fair time before, forecasting for a fair while before we actually applied for the grant. So I think in that respect, we may have had a slight advantage over maybe some people who are just thinking of an idea and developing it. We had already partially developed an MVP, but saw where we could extend the project so it could be more wide-reaching. In terms of how we did it, we basically said, this is the amount of money that we have, and actually we think that we can create from this amount of money a much larger amount of money through marketing activities, direct outreach, and trying to get as much advocacy as possible. So in education, I don't know if any of you are working across education as well. It's a particularly slow-moving, quite traditional market, but I think it's seeing quite rapid changes at the minute. But actually to have those institutions shift quickly, we had to forecast how we're going to get people to trust this new platform, this new technology, the way it can protect brand, it can help learners go into the workplace and be trusted. That actually took some messaging, but as soon as 1 or 2 academics understood it, we then asked those if they could share that with other people, and it was that advocacy that built into our business plan and into our financial modeling that said actually the more advocates we have of our platform, the faster it's going to spread, and actually that saved us on sales, because actually people are going to trust each other more than they're going to trust an external with a new piece of technology and a new company.
That's amazing, yes. Yeah. So for you, Koen, let's move on to the next one. So you've successfully transitioned from an idea, and I know at some point you had an office space and team members from across a couple of geographies. So what piece of advice would you give to developers who are looking to make a transition from an idea, a hackathon project, or like a side project to transition it full-time? What helped you when you were doing that?
Well, you have to, as he said earlier, you have to communicate your ideas to people, to who your user is going to be. We have multiple user types. We're an entertainment platform or content platform, so people who create or enjoy content, where they meet, and third parties, like a recording studio who wants to be booked. You have to communicate your ideas. You have to make it clear what you're going to do, how you're going to do that, and just have a clear business plan that people can read on your website. That's how we did it, at least. And if people understand what you're doing, then they can connect with it. And often, maybe you have a great idea, but if people don't know or don't understand. So yeah, communication is very important, to communicate your ideas in a way that they can understand.
That's awesome. Yeah, so
it's too technical, then people, normal consumers, if I start talking about validators, somebody who just want to upload a song, he has no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. So you have to communicate different ways, like you talk different to an investor than to a user who wants to upload a song, for example.
That's amazing. So this is for both of you. If you were to start all over again today, let's say you had a project or an idea you want to launch, and potentially you want to build it on the SRP ledger, and you don't have any grant, you don't have any funding. How would you go about bringing that idea to life and then transforming that idea into a business?
Well, right now with the AI, it's never been easier than this. For example, I had a full-time graphic designer. This was even before ChatGPT was launched, before this whole AI wave. So that was like 40,000 per year, 40,000 euros to make posters, to make a logo, an icon. Now you got like a text to image, you got text to video, you just type something. I type a wave with a lightning bolt, and boom, I got a shockwave video. So you can make marketing materials on your phone, on your computer. It doesn't cost anything except an internet connection. So it's never been easier than now to present an idea. And with that idea, you got to make people excited. And then maybe you're not going to find a developer that want to work for free or for tokens. That's not going to happen. But maybe you're going to find someone who could be your like CTO or something that really wants to get on board. And then, maybe you give him some equity or something.
That's amazing. So not going alone, but going with partnering with other developers to build the business from the idea. I like that. Yes?
I think I'd take a slightly different approach, just in that I have certain skills. I don't have certain other skills. So I think the first thing you probably want to be able to do is have conversations about your idea with people who have complementary skills that may be able to add some sense check to your idea, rather than it just being within a bubble in your head and thinking, actually, this will be amazing for the world. I think getting it socialized as quickly as possible and trying to make sure that that is a real idea that could be grown by a group of people rather than just built by a commercial heavy company or just built by a technical heavy company is not how we see cross-functional teams operating in tech companies globally. You see cross-functional benefits of the skills that are shared across those team members, and I think if I were to start it again, I would look to validate the idea more widely with a very clear ideal user profile and try and see how many people that is a burning pain for, rather than this would be a nice to, because ultimately we're getting more and more technology thrown at us, and it's the things that are going to really remove pain, that are going to accelerate dramatically, really remove friction, as we know Ripple are doing and others are working in that space. I think that's where I'd spend more of my time than starting to build for a World Bank project that was brilliant, but actually was a single use case rather than something that could scale and genuinely be helpful for more widely.
I agree. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And for me, I can comment on this too. So for me, what I would do differently is, instead of jumping to like building stuff, I'll probably spend a lot more time talking to users, right? Because I was having a conversation with a founder who was able to sell me on a project that wasn't built. So like honing that skill of being able to sell a project and getting people to sign a contract or sign up to a mailing list or something like that before building, that's kind of the approach I would take. Because spending an entire weekend or a few weeks just building stuff that no one wants to use, we don't want to do that. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be interesting. How many people have signed up to a waiting list? Like something that hasn't been available yet, but you thought, actually, that would be a problem for me. All right, so about a quarter of the audience, maybe a third, maybe as much?
30% us, yeah.
I mean, that's something we're starting to see much more, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's people trying to say, is this a real problem, before they actually spend all the money developing and building.
Like what you said, you have something in your head, but you have to talk to the people. Do they want this? Do they need this? Or else you're just projecting and hoping that something sticks. You have to find a real problem, a real use case.
Yeah.
And it can be a niche, that's fine. You don't have to go, I don't have to have Ripple's transaction volume. I don't have to be Spotify or something with 1.6 billion per month revenue. That's not my goal. I just want to do one thing well, like connect the content consumers and creators.
That's amazing. So moving on to what's next and how everything we've talked about here can be practical for other developers in the audience. So the SRPL ecosystem is evolving rapidly. We saw lots of new things being announced. So I'm curious, how do you stay updated with new funding opportunities, both in the SRPL ecosystem and elsewhere, especially as your business model evolves and as the ecosystem also evolves?
I mean, my recommendation would obviously be to apply for XRPL grants and for any opportunities where you can get into that ecosystem if it's something that you're feeling passionate could underline the business model that you're thinking through. I think that the businesses that get funded now are typically starting to evidence both sides, both the technical knowledge and the innovation that you're looking at, and also the use case, the problem that's being solved, the business behind that. So I think apply, but think about the breadth of that application and how it's going to show multiple strengths rather than just being this would be a really cool bit of tech on this blockchain and therefore it should be funded. I think it's going to be more rigorous going forward. But there are lots of other opportunities that are coming up as well, and it may be that starting with something smaller and then building up might give you a better chance to build into that ecosystem more quickly.
Amazing, thanks, Yaz.
Yeah, I would say keep networking, things like this event. You never know who's listening or who's going to tell it to someone else or who shares a YouTube link and where that ends up, something you said. You got to keep networking. You got to monitor all the social media platforms where developers are or where your customers are. Just be busy with it every day, every single day, so that you don't miss any opportunities. And what I said earlier, never give up. I have 4 rejections, 1 acceptance, and I'm still trying it for a new one. You can get 2 maximum, so never give up. Just keep trying. If you believe in what you're doing, it doesn't matter if someone else doesn't believe it, or they say that's never going to work. You don't have to listen to them. You keep pushing because you know what you're building.
Amazing. That's awesome. So the last thing I had was the opportunities in the SRPL ecosystem. We have the SRPL Grants, which the 3 of us got, and also we have the SRPL Accelerator, which I, Chimoney, and VerifyEd were part of. So what's your top recommendation for developers or founders looking to kickstart their project today? So for anyone that has not started or looking to start, what would be your top tip for them that will make a difference in the journey?
I don't know if that's literally one thing. I would say surround yourself with a variety of perspectives and make sure that that's validated with people beyond your immediate bubble. Actually check the demand.
Yeah, and I want to echo what you said earlier about the complementary skill sets. Like, I'm also not a coder, which is not super handy if you're making an app because you got to pay for development hours. But I don't think Brett Garlinghouse is typing lines of code as well. But I look at it like it's a car. If I'm the steering wheel, someone else is the wheel, someone else is the engine. I don't have to do what the engine is doing. If everybody does their own job and does it well, the whole thing works. So you got to connect with people who can complement your own skill sets. I have a great developer, and I can explain what I want, and he can build it. So it's great. So you got to find people who fill that gap, what you need. That would be, and combined with the never give up, that would be the main message, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. So for me, it's also about people, right? So the SRPL community has so many amazing and supportive community members that has helped us, all of us, get where we are today. So my top tip would be connect with other developers that are doing something similar or that you can work with to build something bigger. I like to describe it with 1 + 1 could be 2, or 1 + 1 could be 11. 1 + 1 is 2 when 2 people are doing stuff differently. But when 2 people come together, you can make an exponential impact. So that's kind of the last thing I would like to leave us with. But I'll kind of pass it over to Yaz and also Koen to talk a little bit about maybe VerifyEd and how other developers can connect with you.
So anyone wants to connect, just go to VerifyEd.io. You can sign up for free, or you can find me on LinkedIn really easily. Please connect there. Or one of the other things you might want to do is tonight apparently is meant to be really good for networking and meeting everyone. So There's all sorts of people here that I've spoken to already, investors, developers, people who are building businesses, want to collaborate. I think it should be a really good night this evening as well to continue meeting people.
Amazing.
And
Thanks.
if you make or enjoy content, we're at SHOCKWAVE.network, and we're still building. It's a work in progress. SHOCKWAVE.network.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks, Yaz, and also thanks,
Thank you.
Koen. Really enjoyed having the discussion. Please connect with us later if you have any questions.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone.